to be looking at the challenge of communication.
This communication challenge have cost us many unnecessary doctor bills. Welcome back to our channel. I am Terry and Elaine.
And I am Lowenfield Elaine.
And we are here to share with you tips and tricks of how we navigate through our journey right here on Autistic Edge.
This month is celebrated as Autism Month. It's a month that is set aside to help to raise awareness and acceptance of particular persons that are on the spectrum and the condition. So we'll be taking the opportunity to share with you some of the challenges that one will have as you work with children that are on the spectrum, and tips of how you can navigate and cope with some of these challenges.
And we are going to be sharing with you as well some of our personal challenges as to how we deal with this situation, navigating this twist and turn of the autism journey.
Right, so on this particular episode, we're going to be looking at the challenge of communication.
Now, communication is a very huge area. Some children on the spectrum will have communication challenges. Some of them will be non-verbal and some of them will be speech delayed. And we do have some children who are able to communicate, and we also have children who are fully verbal and on the spectrum. It is known as a spectrum because it affects each child or each person differently. So not everyone will have the same challenges. Now, for our son, Alex Xavier, he was non-verbal up to the age of around 9.5 going 10. Now at this stage, Alex is minimally verbal, so he's able to say 1 and 2 words. He's able to say a full prayer, praise the Lord. He's able to ask for some things. His receptive language is being improved along the way. We are going to share with you some of the challenges we have and how we overcome those challenges. Now, we just want to welcome my husband again to the show. He has been a very supportive husband. He is my tower of strength through this. And while we're having some of these challenges that we're going to talk about, we do share how we handle these challenges. We're going to be looking at the challenges in 3 different areas: the social interaction, the language development, and the sensory processing. All right, so Daddy will take us through.
Right, but there, just before I get into the challenges, I must greet the online audience.
Oh, sure.
I support more often in the background. I'm the person that is doing the smoothing of the video in terms of getting it ready for release. So thank you very much to our online audience. And just this week there, we got to 100 videos on YouTube. So we appreciate all the support that we've been getting. So I really want to say thank you, and thank you once again. So let's dive in. So social interaction. Children on the spectrum, they have challenges interpreting non-verbal cues. Now we know that a huge part of communication is really non-verbal. These are for persons who are quote-unquote normal. We look at body language and that facial sort of thing, facial expression, etc. These children have a difficulty interpreting those cues. So don't be alarmed if the child doesn't understand a particular body language, your facial expression and that sort of thing. They have a challenge understanding it. Even with the tone of your voice, as we communicate, we use different tones in order for persons to understand if you're serious about something, if you're angry about something, if you're excited about something, if you're anxious, if you're sad. Unfortunately, the children on the spectrum sometimes have a challenge interpreting those tones that we tend
and
to
even
use.
sarcasm as well. They hear you for what you actually say. So if you may run a joke or say something that is not intentional, or you say a sentence, it has many various meanings. Sarcasm, they're gonna take that at face value. They don't normally understand sarcasm.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, you have to be very direct in your speech, and if they're non-verbal, you have to make your sentences minimal as well for them to understand.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, you have to, they take it for at face value, right? So you have to be very careful. So that's the first one that we wanted to look at, the social interaction, looking at body language, looking at facial expressions, looking at clues or cues, non-verbal cues, and as Terian mentioned, the whole aspect of sarcasm.
All right, so the next area that we're going to be talking about is language development. Now, for children on the spectrum, they normally have limited speech or difficulty expressing their needs and emotions, and which make it very challenging for parents to even understand their child's perspective. What are they thinking and how to respond effectively. Now, just to backtrack a little, to share with you that one of the very first things that we observed in Alexander that would have pointed to us that something was wrong, and that was the area of communication. We find that when we ask him his name, he's just looking at you blank. Or whenever you call him, he pretend, well, not pretend, he looks, or to us it seemed as if he was not hearing. And part of the assessment that we had to do at the time was a hearing test with the audiologist to just make sure that nothing was going on there with the ear, to rule out, any issues with his ear.
Right.
It's very challenging when you are not able to understand your child and your child is not able to understand you either. Up to the age of 1, when we asked him, how old are you? He was able to put that one finger up and say 1. But after 1 going 2, we realized that there was a regression. He would no longer respond to our questions when we asked them. He will just float around on his tippy toes, non-verbal, no eye contact. We weren't getting that direct eye contact or any at all. Okay, so those were some of the challenging areas. All right?
Right. So the next one I want to look at is sensory processing. This is an area that is a real challenge for children or any person on the spectrum, whether it is a child or an adult. And we picked up that something was wrong with Alex Xavier in terms of the whole matter of sensory processing. Because I remember one occasion there, we took him to a function at our national arena.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I remember this was a very renowned speaker within our church's circles.
Yeah.
And we were excited because the person was coming to Jamaica. And we went and we got ourselves good seats in the house and we sat. But Alex Xavier would not stay in the auditorium at all. But then we realized when we took him away out of that environment that he was calm and he was good. And the minute we reintroduced him, there was a challenge.
It was just overwhelming for him.
As well. But what will happen with children on the spectrum is their senses become heightened, whether it be sound, whether it be light, whether it be touch, those sort of things. They have heightened senses. So what you recognize is sometimes in order to cope with this stimulus, you'll find that they will have what we call meltdowns. Now the meltdowns are different from tantrums. We may have covered this in a previous video, but a meltdown is really a child's way of coping with the stimulus that he or she is having. So let me give you a quick example of what a meltdown is. So I would have taken Alexander to the supermarket, but then because there are so many people there are so many different songs, there are so many different colors with the things on the shelf and the lights, or even the temperature as well. So he would throw himself down on the floor and he'll be swerving around and so on. And you wonder, it may look like to somebody else who is not familiar that the child is being rude. But that wasn't the case at all. It was just him trying to cope with the stimulus or the stimuli that was around
and needless to say that for many parents, this kind of behavior can be very embarrassing, because you can imagine you're out in public and persons looking at you when you're having all these kind of responses coming from your child. And that's part of the reason why for the Autism Awareness Month, we want to use the opportunity to share the challenges, so that when you see parents out there with their children and they may be going through similar situation, you may kind of understand. You may know how to empathize, and if you know anything about autism, you may be able to help, because you may have a neighbor, you may have a family. If you don't have someone with autism, you may have a neighbor, you may have a family member, you may have a friend. Through our series that we have been doing, our neighbors and our friends are becoming even more aware of what we are going through, and they are getting more understanding. We are hearing more and more people saying that, I have somebody, I know somebody, and these are some of the challenges that they are going through too, and they might be saying, oh, this is what happened when all of this is happening, right? So this is spreading awareness and educate all of us, so that we can understand and how to better support these persons, the parents or even the children. It can be very overwhelming for the parents, and it was for us. We are not going to say for other parents. For us, this area, the communication area, is one of the biggest challenge that we have as parents as well. What about you, dear?
Yeah, I agree there. So that's why I want to pivot now to kind of share with the folks some of the things that we do in order to address or to narrow that gap as far as communication is concerned. So the first one we want to look at is the use of visual aids. There's an initiative mechanism known as PECS. Did I get it right?
That's correct.
All right. The
Picture exchange communication system.
Very good.
My husband, right? He has been listening.
Right. So the PECS system is where you use these pictures in order for the child to share with you what it is that they want, what they'd like to do, etc. So for example, Alex Xavier will have a picture of a bathroom, a toilet that he will have, and he will show us that picture to say, hey, I need to go to the toilet, or I need to do juice, or I need chips, or whatever the case may be. That's a way of bridging the gap as far as the communication is concerned. So that's an example. That's not exhaustive in and of itself in terms of visual aids, but that's an example of what
right. And right here we're gonna show you a picture of an example of the PEG system that we use. So here we have on our fridge, and as you're looking at this picture, it's a I want chart. We have at least 3 pictures on this chart, and to begin with we may put 2, but now Alex can be able to discriminate from 3 pictures, and he will tell you I want, and he will point to the picture of whichever item he wants, and we will get that from the fridge. Now we try to use items that we know that he will need, so you can use like food items, water, and any of his personal items, or even his tablets if he loves his gadgets and stuff. Now this is one example of the picture exchange communication system. There are various ways in which to use this. We can sequence some of these pictures to teach a routine, like for example a bathroom routine, or even requesting, and well, this is for requesting, but also a bathroom routine like for brushing your teeth. We could have had a picture of the toothbrush, the toothpaste, and you can also have one of these in your bathroom as well.
As we speak about routines there, and still on the subject of communication,
Right.
routines are one of the ways you can use to help the child in terms of communicating. So I'll use again Alex Xavier as an example. We did a video last week about potty training, and I'm hoping that the folks checked it out, because this we get a lot of requests around that particular subject.
Yeah.
But here's what we do as far as our routine for Alex where potty training is concerned. If we're going out at any point in time, it's the last thing we do before we go out.
Right.
Before he goes to bed, it's the last thing he does before he goes to bed. When he wakes up in the morning, it's the first thing that he does, that he when he wakes up in the morning. Now this way, it's easy for us for him to understand that, hey, this is something that you need to do, so we don't run into those kind of challenges, because he has a better understanding of what's required during that particular point in time.
Excellent point there. And the routine, the routine does give predictability, so you know what is coming next at all times. The routine is not only good for the child, it's good for the child, yes, but it's also good for the parents as well, because it helps us to organize. So say for example, we have a feeding routine. So you know by a certain time in the morning he will get his breakfast. Snacks or fruits are served at a particular time as well. Lunch is served at a particular time, and we know dinner is served at a particular time. Now, the predictability there for us is if he just have breakfast and then you realize that he's fussy and he just seems to be agitated and not settling down, or even crying, or probably having a meltdown, then you know one of the first things you rule out there is that he's not hungry. Right. So once you rule out that he's not hungry, then we are going to have to look at it by process of elimination, look at other things. So we are going to have to look at his body to see, look at his body language to see if he's showing any signs of pain. Because one of the things that he will do, if he's feeling pain, he will pull your hand and touch the area. Then now we have to go be doctor and nurse to try to figure out what is happening. And if it look too serious based on his response, then we may have to take him to the emergency room. And needless to say that this communication challenge have cost us many unnecessary doctor bills. There are times we had a point when Alex was just crying, and we couldn't figure out what was happening. We don't know whether his tummy was hurting, we don't know if ears, and the thing is, he used to suffer with a lot of ear infection. So when you see put his hand on his ear, then you know, say, and that crying continues, then we have to take him to the doctor. Sometimes you'll find that, you know, it's an ear infection. Sometimes he's here crying, and when we end up in the emergency room, the child stop crying when we reach a doctor in the middle of the night, folks. Yeah, those are some of the challenges.
Yeah. Just before we come off this matter of routine, it's also a good way to develop speech as well, because not only do the child get to undertake the activity, but if the child is non-verbal, it's an opportunity for you to say, let's say when he wakes up in the morning, what do you want to do? I want to go to the bathroom, right? And we're gonna go out, Alex. What's the last thing that we do before we go out? Use the bathroom. So it's a way to help to build speech into the whole activity as well.
Right, and we're just sharing with you so that as parents, caregivers, and even persons out there associated with other persons with children on the spectrum, these are some of the challenges that you may face, and these are some of the things that you can do as well to kind of alleviate and reduce the stress factor for both the parents and even the children as well. Now, sign language is another thing that we can use. We haven't used sign language with Alex Xavier. His receptive language developed a little late, and because of that, we never thought that he was able to learn the sign language. Part of the problem with sign language is that we don't know sign language either. But we are not averse to learning. We are willing to work with whatever it is out there. We are parents who are just willing to give it a try. This journey has been a real trial and error for us, and we're working with the trials, we're working with the errors, and we just get up and move on we try something and it don't work, we move on to something else. All right.
The final thing we'll share as a tip to help to overcome this challenge is really one that we can't underscore sufficiently, and it's getting specialized therapists. Now, granted, we would have used this channel to share with you what our experience has been, but the therapists themselves have proven to be very, very
fruitless.
Well, not necessarily fruitless, but in terms of the whole concept of the use of the therapies, those are things that are definitely going to yield the results. So you want to make sure that you're partnering with the right interventionist, the right therapist, in order to get the desired results. Work on the objectives and ensuring that the objectives are being met, and if not, you tweak the activities so that you can have the desired results. So I agree that sometimes it may be challenging, that you may not be able to find the right partner to work with, but don't give up. There are many persons that are out there that are specialists in these areas, and I encourage you to ensure that you seek those individuals so that they can help you to intervene. And the earlier, the better. We had a challenge in terms of Alexander being nonverbal. We had our challenges in terms of getting the support there. But what we did is we went and we educated ourselves, and we used the intervention strategy. So nothing is wrong with the therapy in and of itself. You just want to make sure that you're working with the right partner in order to deliver on the results and the objectives that you want to achieve.
And just to say that there is a talk about finding the right partner in terms of the specialist or the therapist, which is a speech therapist, to be working along with you. It is sad though to say that we are very, very short on speech therapists, and especially in our region, in our country, Jamaica, we only have 7 on the island currently. And with the growing numbers of autistic children on the rise, it's very concerning for a lot of parents. When you speak now with a lot of parents, you will be told that, you know, they're all on a waiting list. And this waiting list is, you don't know when you will get a slot. For you to get an appointment, somebody will have to drop out of the program, or somebody will have to, let's call it, graduate from the program, would have been recovered sufficiently not to need therapists anymore. Then you may get a space. The recovery period can be very long, because if the child is fully non-verbal, like Alex Xavier, they may take a longer while to be showing any signs of response. And that too can be a challenge, because you may find yourself paying a lot of money and you're saying, is this therapist working out? And you just feel like you're just paying, and there's no improvement, which is what was happening for us. And we didn't even know what was going on in the session, right? And one of the things, to find a good therapist, I just want to outline a few points that you look for. If you are working with a speech therapist, you want to maximize the time, because it's money, and it's also, you know, difficult. So you want to make sure you're maximizing your time. Ensure that your speech therapist have a goal plan, documented goal plan. Make sure that you are asking questions. Make sure that you are getting activities from your speech therapist so that you can work at home with your child. The session normally lasts for half an hour. You and I know that half an hour, especially if a child with ADHD might just be running around the room for half an hour, and it takes probably 15 minutes out of the half an hour for the child to settle down. So it is important that we have functional speech therapy happening outside of the speech therapist's office and a part of your daily life. We talk about our chart that we have on the fridge. We are currently doing our own research of the understanding speech therapy, finding the techniques, trying the techniques, and we are getting improvement. You can do it too.
Yeah, I wanna support you on that point too there. As you mentioned, the scarcity of the speech therapist.
Yeah.
It means that we as parents have to empower ourselves, and I'm gonna encourage those of you who are on here, arm yourself with the education. Ensure you practice what we call functional speech therapy. So you can't rely on just the structured speech therapy sessions alone. We have to make sure that those strategies are being employed outside of those formal sessions so that you can see the full benefit.
We hope that this session proves beneficial to you, to your children, or any family member. And if you know anyone who would like to hear this content, share it with them so that all of us can be educated in supporting our children. Thank you once again for joining us in this another day in the life of living on the Autistic Edge. Don't forget to like,
comment,
share, and make sure you subscribe. So the next time we put out another content, you will be notified.